Hi, Planet Writers. Let's talk about your second draft. So you should have already looked at the actual Canvas assignment. If you haven't done that, then pause the video and go check that out before you come back to this. That way you're going to know sort of the basic outline. So here at the Planet, we call the second draft the kitchen sink draft. And the reason why we call that is because this draft should really have everything but the kitchen sink in it. This is the draft where you have taken all the great reporting that you're doing and you really put it, as much of it as you can, into the story. This draft is filled with information. It's filled with sources. It's going to be the longest draft you write. So 1,300 words minimum, and should have 5 document sources and 5 human sources. It's possible that you won't include all 5 of those sources of each kind in your story, but I really encourage you to try, as long as they are relevant. And it's possible that you might have 2 sources that seem somewhat duplicate. Put them both into that story. The reason why is that that's how editors know what you have in your story. Sometimes something that you think isn't so significant, when the editor sees it, they think, that's really important. But if you don't put it in the story, they're not going to know that you have it. So that's why we call this the kitchen sink draft. But that does not mean that it should be a messy kitchen sink, right? It should not be filled with dirty dishes spilling over. It should be a kitchen sink full of lots of clean dishes. And what I mean by that is that your story should still be a well-written story that's a pleasure to read. And that includes, it should have a good, clear structure to it. And go back to the Anatomy of a Planet story assignment if you're not clear on what that is. The writing should be clear. It should be crisp. It should be descriptive. There should not be a bunch of jargon. It should not have a lot of passive tense sentences in it. And then you should be sure to follow the Planet template, please. It's there for a reason. And be sure to footnote. And I really encourage you, before you turn it in, to sit down and read your story out loud. Don't just mumble it to yourself. Actually read it out loud like you're giving a speech. And do that with a pencil or a pen in hand. And mark, I'm assuming you've printed it out. If not, you can do it on a screen. But mark each point where you stumble or when you trip over something, because that tells you that there's something wrong with the wording or something wrong with the sentence structure. So that reading out loud can really help you hear those problems. So that's the basics, but let's dive into the Canvas page just to be sure that you understand all the fine print. Writers, here we are at the Canvas assignment page for the second draft. Most of this I've already discussed with you, but I just want to highlight a few things. At least 5 human sources interviewed, 5 written sources reviewed. This draft should be 1,300 to 1,500 words long. At the end of the draft, remember that you want to include 2 things this time. One is an initial idea for an infographic for your story. And as I explain here, an infographic is a graphic illustration related to some element of your story. So it might be a map, it might be a chart or a graph of data, it might be a graphic that visually shows how something works. So think about some element of your story that would benefit a lot from that kind of visual representation. And it should also be something for which we can actually get the data or get the information. So don't just make something up. So that's one thing, you need to have an infographic idea. And then the other down here is, don't forget your self-evaluation of what you think needs improvement. As I noted earlier, you don't have to include all 5 written and human sources in your story, but I really want you to try, as long as it makes sense to have them in there. If you have somebody who just doesn't have any connection to the actual story, don't include them, needless to say. But this should be a story that's really rich in sources and information. And then, of course, the footnoting. I know nobody's favorite thing to do, but it is important to do it right because that allows the editors to efficiently fact check your story. And if you don't do it right, you're going to have editors coming back to you saying, where's this information from? Where's this information from? So it's best to do it now for everybody's sake. All right, let's take a quick look at the rubric just so you can understand what I'm going to be emphasizing on this draft. We're just going to take a quick look at it here. Okay, here we are at the rubric. This is the second draft. You can see that the sourcing has been reduced a little bit in importance, but it's still very important. Total 35% of your grade. Length, 5% of your grade. We're looking for 1,300 words or more. Depth or science explained, we're putting a little bit more importance on this now. You should be able to dive a little deeper into the story. Nut graph, still important. Structure. Your structure should be coming into focus, and so that's now going to be graded. The setting, also AP style and grammar, I am going to be looking for that to be done correctly, so please be sure it's really perfect in that regard. Also, more attention now to the writing style and imagery. You're getting to the point where you're moving towards the final draft. And then planet format, obviously important, but less emphasis this time. And then finally, self-analysis. And then down here, and actually this says the infographics is 0. This isn't right. Infographics and self-analysis are going to be kind of combined into one. And then finally, editor opinion. On this draft, I'm going to be asking each editor to tell me what grade they think you should get for it, and that's going to be 15% of the grade. Please let me know if I haven't explained anything clearly or you have any questions. Thanks very much. I hope that's given you a clear picture of what the second draft should be looking like. You're going to be talking to your editors this week, and so I really encourage you to turn to them for help with any questions. You can share with them early drafts and they can give you feedback. Likewise, if you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with me. And I'm also going to put in a final plug. The Planet is happening this fall, and we need great reporters. You guys have all shown that you've got the skills, and so I would love to have you back. So think about joining the Planet again. And also, we're going to be looking for Planet editors, and so consider if that's something that you'd be interested in doing. And contact me if you're interested. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Good luck with the second drafts. I'm looking forward to seeing them.